faithfully delivering value and interpreting great books from around the world. Oh, hello, this is Sally Book Talk. Today, I'm going to interpret for you the book, The Parental Pattern. Parental education and care, along with school teaching and cultivation, are two indispensable forces in a child's growth process. But you know what? A child's growth also requires a third force. The third force is a novel concept proposed by the author of this book, Huang Jinji. In simple terms, the third force refers to those forces that help children gain growth experiences. Finding the third force isn't easy. It requires parents to have great wisdom and broad vision, be good at teaching according to aptitude, and also have attentiveness and patience to keenly capture materials around them. The author of this book, Lan Jingji, is the wife of the famous composer and conductor Tan Dun, and also a mother of two children. The two children lived in New York when they were young. When the eldest was 9, she took both children back to Shanghai to continue their education there. Later, after the eldest finished junior high school in Shanghai, he returned to the US to attend a boarding high school. Therefore, Huang Jingji has deep insights into the different educational approaches between the East and the West. She created the Parenting Hall public account to share her parenting experiences with more parents, as detailed in the Parental Pattern. This book is compiled based on her journey and parenting experiences, mainly discussing what troubles might arise in raising two boys and how to solve them. How did the author Huang Jingji utilize the third force to help the children grow into well-rounded and successful individuals? Next, I'll introduce the content of this book to you in 3 aspects. First, why do children need the third force? Second, how can we help children obtain the third force? Third, what to do when problems arise during a child's growth process. First, let's look at the first question. Why do children need the third force? Before answering this question, let's look at an example of school choice for a child. The author's eldest son, Ian, finished kindergarten and is about to start elementary school. After comprehensively considering factors like distance, school size, and ranking, the author needed to choose between the 2 remaining schools. Among these 2 schools, the first one is a comprehensive school. It has a larger size and implements mixed-age classes, where classes are reorganized annually based on students' learning progress, grouping children with similar progress together. The other one is a small yet beautiful church school with only 12 students in each class, growing together from age 6 to 14 until graduation. The author felt that both schools had their strengths and didn't know how to choose. So he took his son Ian to visit both schools. First, he took Ian to visit one. At the comprehensive school, they found it was converted from an old factory, very spacious with wide stairs and teaching corridors and a high arched roof. Ian disappeared as soon as he entered, happily wandering around everywhere. At the end of the visit, it was only after the author asked the teacher that Ian was found. Then they went to the church school. Unexpectedly, just as they passed through the school's exquisite and enormous carved decorations, when they reached the black iron gate, Ian immediately said he wanted to go back. He said he didn't like it here. The author asked why, but he couldn't explain, just saying he liked that big school. Thus, Ian began his studies at the comprehensive school. The teaching style there suited his cheerful and lively personality perfectly. The mixed age classes also meant that Ian, born in August, wouldn't always be the youngest. Instead, he had chances to blend into classes with kids of different ages and make more friends. The comprehensive school's hands-on teaching approach also suited Ian's appetite very well. For example, there was a class aimed at understanding their own neighborhood, and the teacher took Ian and his classmates to learn every street, marking them on a map, and through history lessons, they showed how the streets had changed over time. In this way, throughout his schooling, Ian's imagination and creativity were encouraged by both his parents and the school. Hmm. Hmm. When he grew up, he went to the New York University Film School to further his studies. The author's neighbor, a little girl named Virginia, hmm, she was 1 year younger than Ian. When she chose an elementary school, she unhesitatingly picked the church school Ian disliked because she adored its big garden and loved growing up inseparably with 11 other kids. When she grew up, she attended a famous design institute in the US, studied stage and costume design, and became a designer. Ian and Virginia, based on their preferences, chose schools that fit them, setting the right direction for life's first step. But another little girl in Shanghai, Xiao Xiao, wasn't so lucky. Xiao Xiao had strong language talent since childhood, speaking fluent English and writing excellent essays. Xiao Xiao's grandmother is a top-level math teacher with such solid support. Her parents rarely put effort into her life or studies, just letting her live with her grandmother. When it was time to move from elementary to junior high, a foreign language school and a top-tier class in a district key school both admitted Xiao Xiao. She wanted to go to the foreign language school, but the adults chose the top-tier class. So Xiao Xiao went from being a top student with language talent to lagging behind in math scores. As a top-level math teacher, her grandmother couldn't accept her granddaughter being at the bottom in math, so she complained and scolded Xiao Xiao. That Xiao Xiao's math scores still didn't improve at all. Her parents took her back from her grandmother's house and paid for after-school tutoring, but her math scores still struggled to pass. After graduating from junior high, Xiaoso didn't continue to high school. Instead, she went to a tourism vocational school. From the examples of these three children's development after school choices, we can see the role of the third force. The third force is about converting strength given by others into the child's internal drive. The author made a vivid analogy. And the third force is like a voltage converter, transforming 110 volts to 220 volts. Ian and Virginia received unconditional respect and support from their parents. Then they successfully converted the education tailored to their personalities from school into internal drive, whereas Xiaosa's parents didn't give her support, and what the school taught wasn't her strength. So her internal drive didn't convert successfully, leading to different growth paths for the three children. Therefore, the role of the third force can be summarized in 3 points. The second point is to help children discover their traits and interests, what they like and are good at. Like Ian in the example, who is lively and prefers dynamic teaching methods. Virginia is quiet with her own preference for art, while Xiao Xiao excels in English. The second point is to help children persist so that these interests and hobbies can eventually become their distinctive features and unique labels. The third point is to enable children to be full of energy and make correct choices. And when children grow mature and excellent enough, their choices become more rational. In a nutshell, whether external pressure can be converted into internal motivation is the key to the third force taking effect. All right, that's all for the first part. Why do children need the third force? The third force is what helps children convert external pressure into internal motivation. Children with the third force possess self-drive, have diverse interests, are full of confidence, have their own opinions, and can make good decisions independently. So, how do children acquire the third force? That's the second question I'm going to address. How to help children obtain the third force. The author lists 12 episodes from her time with her children to illustrate how to obtain the third force. In summary, it can be divided into 3 categories. The first is skillfully relying on others to influence the child. The second is using mistakes, difficulties, and challenges to stimulate the child's self-control and independence. The third is utilizing leisure time to nourish the child's soul. First, let's look at the first category, skillfully relying on others to influence the child. Sure, others can be of many types, such as extended family, role models, and childhood friends growing up together. What is extended family? Extended family corresponds to the nuclear family, referring to outside one's immediate family. The author's children have a very close extended family. The author's good friend is Carol's family. Carol's family has three children. The eldest and second child are 10 years older than Ian, and the third, Austin, is about Ian's age. Ian often spends whole days at Carol's house, playing not only with Austin, but also with the two older siblings. He went from being the eldest at home to the youngest in someone else's family, enjoying the feeling of playing with older siblings, and also learning some rules from Carol's family. For example, when asking someone to do anything, one must say, please. Another example is learning good habits that are hard to develop at home. Once, Ian's younger brother, Sean, was eating, but halfway through, he put down his bowl and started running around the table. Ian said to the author, Mom, send Sean to Carol's house just one summer there and he'll eat properly. See, Ian learned table manners at Carol's house. And when he saw his brother not eating properly, his first thought was to send him there for reform. That's the benefit of an extended family. It helps children develop a sense of propriety and self-discipline. Because in someone else's home, he's no longer the center of attention all the time. In others' homes, they need more consideration for others and respect for household rules. So children naturally pay more attention to whether their words and actions are appropriate. Role models and exemplars can also influence children. If we compare children to little birds, then role models and exemplars are the eagles. The eagle's strength and flight height are benchmarks in the little bird's eyes. Only by flying as high and far as the eagle can, they see the world's wonders. Ian also had an eagle-like role model in his life. His junior high school launched an environmental activity called Roots and Shoots. The group mainly promotes growing vegetables on campus and reusing waste. This activity group comes from a worldwide environmental organization. Roots and Shoots aims to use the seemingly small but enduring power of roots and shoots to change the world. After participating in the Roots and Shoots activity group, Ian began to pay attention to Jane Goodall, the founder of Roots and Shoots, and learned that she's a biologist and animal behaviorist who was named a UN Messenger of Peace in 2002 because she introduced environmental concepts and public welfare into junior and senior high schools globally, enabling children to develop environmental awareness. The more Ian learned about Jane Goodall, the greater his interest in waste recycling and vegetable growing became. He actively reused bottles and jars at home and donated useful items he no longer needed to relevant environmental organizations. He would also donate useful items like books and clothes to environmental organizations to help those in need. This is the influence role models and exemplars have on children. Ian learned from Jane Goodall, a role model who volunteers to promote global environmental causes. Ian learned the concept of giving and helping others. Through helping others, he became more confident and realized his own value. This is how skillfully relying on others influences children. In this approach, childhood friends growing up together are also a type of others that can assist in a child's development. The author's younger son, Sean, joined a violin ensemble. The ensemble was full of older experts with only one child around his age and skill level. And so the ensemble teacher paired them up as partners. With this little companion, practicing violin was no longer boring for Sean. He would spend time after practice learning from the older brothers and sisters with his little companion. Sometimes they deliberately play awful music. Other times they'd improvise their own variations of the tunes. So practicing became a joyful thing, and both little companions made tremendous progress. Now let's look at the second method, using mistakes, difficulties, and challenges to stimulate children's self-control and independence. Usually, parents and teachers immediately try to correct children's mistakes, using every means to make them change completely, even resorting to punishment. For example, Chinese teachers and parents often forbid kids from going to internet cafes to prevent gaming. If a child goes, they might get scolded or beaten by parents or even receive demerits at school. Facing the same issue of kids gaming online, the author's child's school used mistakes to help children grow. The author's eldest son, Ian, attended a boarding high school in the US. When he first entered ninth grade, Ian was just 14, going through teenage rebellion while suddenly free from parental supervision. And the thing was, so Ian became wildly obsessed with gaming, pulling all-nighters on weekends and unable to get up Monday mornings. When teachers notified the author, she panicked and wanted to demand the school ban gaming. But the school replied they wouldn't prohibit gaming because school rules only banned gaming during class and study hours, not free time. But teachers weren't passive. They gave Ian three requirements. First, finish homework before gaming. Second, obey the 11 p.m. lights out rule. Third, learn self-control. Parents often don't expect 14-year-olds to control themselves. In fact, many adults struggle with self-control. Yet, Ian's teacher made this demand, hoping students would recognize mistakes and correct them independently, not through forced intervention. And Ian ultimately managed himself without gaming addiction. Mistakes aren't just difficulties and challenges, they help children grow rapidly. When the author's family first moved back to Shanghai from New York, Ian was just 9. A year passed. Although he adapted well to the new environment, he still missed his classmates and friends in America deeply. The author decided to let Ian return to New York alone to visit his friends as a 10th birthday gift. For a 10-year-old, to take a 16-hour international flight alone was truly a huge challenge. Um, in China, many parents wouldn't dare let a 10-year-old walk to school alone for even a few minutes. Yet, the author and Ian did this. Despite his fear, Ian even recalled a story his father told him about a child who lost his boarding pass, boarded the wrong flight, and ended up in Moscow instead of London. He never returned to London, becoming a street cleaner in Moscow instead. So Ian clutched his boarding pass tightly, refusing to let go even when ground staff checked him in. This journey greatly benefited Ian. It was his first step toward independence and paved the way for him later attending boarding school in the US alone. External influences, mistakes, and challenges. Educate externally, but how can children achieve self-driven growth and education? Yes, the third approach, using leisure time to nourish the soul, giving children downtime for pure play or long-term planning fosters inner growth. Why is that? Because beyond studying, kids need play, time to pursue passions and invest effort in what they love. What the author did most was cultivate Ian's interest in sports. Sports greatly benefit children's physical and mental health, building resilience and perseverance. From ages 3 to 9, Ian underwent 6 years of soccer training, strengthening his body while learning teamwork. Ian's coach often paired kids for passing drills, sometimes setting intergroup competitions. The pair with most passes and set time won. The coach also rotated everyone as goalkeeper, helping kids understand every position's importance, not just blaming the keeper for conceded goals. In high school, Ian took fencing lessons in a nearby town. He also organized 11 other fencing enthusiasts to lobby the school into approving a fencing club, which provided them with dedicated practice space. This demonstrated how sports taught Ian communication and leadership skills. All right, that concludes the second part, which focused on how parents can educate children using the third force. And there are three main methods. First, skillfully relying on others to influence the child. These others can include close family, friends, childhood companions, or role models. Second, use mistakes, difficulties, and challenges to stimulate self control and independence. Letting children discover and correct errors themselves proves more effective than forced compliance. Appropriate challenges inspire courage and foster independence. Third, utilize leisure time to nourish the child's soul. Free time offers temporary respite from academic pressures. Sports participation is an excellent approach. During parenting, some constantly worry their mistakes cause their child's issues. Thus, they diligently study new educational theories and methods. Yet others remain fearlessly ignorant, using archaic methods like rewarding obedience and punishing defiance, then lamenting when problems arise. So, what should parents do when genuine problems emerge during a child's growth? How should parents respond? That's the third question I'll address. The most common issue is poor grades. Parents often blame inattentiveness in class or careless homework. But the author believes you must first understand your child's learning style before tailoring instruction. Why is that? Education experts classify children's learning styles into three types: auditory, visual, and kinesthetic. Auditory learners primarily acquire knowledge through listening. They possess sharp hearing, sometimes mimicking nursery rhymes after just one teacher demonstration. Education professor Kurt Fisher suggested the best method for auditory learners is exposing them to audio materials. For example, playing educational videos for kids or reading stories aloud to them. The author's younger son, Sean, is an auditory learner. At just 5, he could tap melodies he'd heard on the piano with one finger. So Sean's learning style is distinctive. He loves having his mom read to him. Being sound sensitive, Sean struggles to concentrate in class. Any noise from classmates makes him look around. Thus, the author spent significant time helping Sean focus and improve self-control. For instance, she bought Sean treasure hunt books, where kids find listed objects and illustrations. Treasure hunting doesn't engage hearing, but trains observation and attention. Initially, Sean would quit after finding just 2 or 3 items. The author invented stories about the pictures to help Sean persist. Her elder son, Ian, however, is kinesthetic, adoring hands-on activities, drawing, soccer, tennis, especially wilderness adventures like forest exploration. Kinesthetic kids can't stay still. They often break rules and ignore instructions. They listen while running or swaying. Many label such children as difficult to manage. But they're quick, brilliant learners, though easily distracted and impatient, unlike Sean, who absorbed books quietly. The author scheduled extensive sports for Ian to burn excess energy. For academics, she connected knowledge to crafts, like counting rice with cups for math, or recording mooncake recipes during Mid-Autumn Festival by interviewing cooks. Simply put, for kinesthetic learners, no experience, no real understanding. Hands-on activities beat lectures. Compared to kinesthetic kids, visual learners are angels versus devils. Visual learners are usually quiet, intently observing surroundings and storing details mentally. Their strengths shine: keen observation, love for reading, and attentive class participation. In real life, about 80% of people lean toward visual learning, so most classroom designs cater to this style. But visual learners grasp quickly yet forget easily. They benefit from frequent review to reinforce knowledge. Understanding these three types helps parents. Revisiting poor grades becomes clearer once you know your child's learning style. Today's parents are too anxious, fearing bad grades lead to failure or bad habits cause disaster. The author warns this creates hypercriticism where minor mistakes invite harsh punishment. Under constant scolding, children may lie, imitate violence toward weaker peers, or become withdrawn. Parents think the child turned bad, but actually, they were broken by the punishment. Here, the author offers 3 suggestions to ease parental anxiety before parenting. First, control your emotions. Don't become a raging monster. When angered by your child, step away briefly to cool down. If adults can't control themselves, how can we demand self-control from children? Second, release the fear of imperfect parenting. Stop obsessing over how your actions might ruin their future. Children have their own paths. They won't easily become terrible nor perfectly ideal. Parents need only do two things: accept children as they are and strive to improve themselves. Third, step back and rest. Often children's issues stem from parental overpressure. Allowing yourself to relax gives children space to grow for themselves, not just for their parents. All right, that concludes part 3, handling problems in children's growth. Ultimately, children's issues trace back to parental issues. Have parents discovered their child's learning style? Have they communicated with their child calmly and without scolding? Understanding children's characteristics, controlling one's emotions, and letting go moderately are the first lessons parents should learn. After raising children, who do the children truly belong to? Do they belong to the parents, to themselves, or to the world? This question deserves deep thought from every parent. If children belong only to the parents, then they are merely appendages. If children belong to themselves, then they own their own lives. If they belong to the world, they will willingly help, give back, and make the world a better place. The answer to this question truly reflects the parent's vision. All right, that concludes our interpretation of the parental pattern for you. The book notes are below the audio, and we'll see you tomorrow